This episode is brought to you by High Point Market. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Welcome back to the Design Dash podcast. I'm Laura Umansky, your co-host, here with Melissa Groh. And today our guest is Lois Barth, a human development expert, executive coach, keynote and workshop speaker, and the author of Courage to Sparkle. But more importantly, for today's conversation, Lois is someone that I work with personally as a coach, and so does my husband. And Melissa's actually worked with Lois in the past, and she supported other members of our team at Laura U Design Collective over the years, so we know each other pretty well. So today is not necessarily an interview. It's more of a working conversation. We're going to focus on how women business owners like us think when answers aren't obvious. We struggle with a lot of decisions pretty much every day, maybe every hour. So today, Lois is going to work through some of those tough moments with us and talk about how she works through these things with her coaching clients. Welcome, Lois. Thanks for joining us.
It's so great to be here. I feel so part of the family. Yay.
And you are. So, okay, we're going to just kick off with, you work with high-performing founders. I guess I'm calling myself a high-performing founder, who function well in theory, but often feel stretched. And we have this conversation a lot. Like, I'm going through my day-to-day, but sometimes I just feel like something's not working. And you often help me dig into what that is.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the most common decision that these founders or business owners are avoiding when they say they're overwhelmed or stretched thin? Why is it so hard for us to name this directly?
That's such a great question, Laura. I'm actually going to circle back to a post that you did on social media, on LinkedIn, a couple of days or a week ago, about how in the beginning of your business, like you deemed making quick decisions as a personal victory.
Right.
And now, as you're much more tenured and seasoned and a veteran in your business, you're going slow to go fast. And I think that is such a hard thing to do. There's a wonderful world-renowned meditation specialist named Sharon Salzberg, and she says, don't just do something, sit there. And that is very hard for us, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed and lots of things that have to do and clients that need us. And I think that the most important decision is to go slow, to go fast, and really go back. And sometimes it's, I do a lot of self-regulation work with people as well, because, right, we can be in fight flight. But I think what's really important, the decision is to really go back and go, what do I love about this business that got me in it first place? What do I love? What am I great at? My superpowers. And of those things, what moves the business forward? And really being willing to be honest with yourself, beautifully honest, about what were the things that brought me into this business that I love. And you can feel it in your energy throughout the day when you're in grind versus grind or glow, right? And to really look at getting really strategic and isolating those 3 to 5 areas, or it could be 2 areas. It could be biz dev and doing design. That might be it. And to say, okay, am I being busy or productive? And I love words. To me, they're like tender little morsels with no calories. And I love words because productive, I know I could be very fun and silly.
I don't know if you know how I feel about like using food analogies, but I'm here for it. Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. But bring it on, baby. No,
bring it.
Productive is from the root produce or produce, right? And what results are you producing in your life? That's the essence of productivity. Busy is just, you're dancing as fast as you can. So I think it's really important. The decision to ask yourself is, what brought me in this business? And you might say, I need to take a chill break. I need to walk around the block 300 or 300 times. But really take that moment to go, what brought me in this business? What do I love that is my superpower that is actually driving the business forward? And then there's like a second category I'm good at, zone of competence, I don't love it, but I'm good at it. And yes, it drives a business because that could be a really important distinction when you're looking at operating budget to bring on team or expand team. Like,
Hmm.
okay, my operating budget, things that I'm terrible at that aren't moving the business forward but need to get done, top priority for operating budget. So I think those are the questions to ask yourself.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Going back to your why, right?
Yeah,
Why are you doing this? What really jazzed you up? Like, what made you passionate about doing this in the first place? But then
absolutely.
we'll have some people in the community say, I am deeply connected to my why, but I'm somewhat disconnected from myself. I lack the confidence to really connect to why I'm doing this. And what advice would you have for those business owners?
Right. And I love that word confidence. It's like become like a buzzword, like imposter syndrome, confidence, big words.
Hmm.
And I think there is my word for this year. Usually I pick like big epic words. This year is equanimity, but it's like a quiet confidence unswayed by success or challenges. I think it's really also separating out confidence of who you know yourself to be
Hmm.
versus skill sets, right? You might be in a learning curve with a skill set. And I think often we merge them together, and especially as women, we're very hard on ourselves. So to say, wait, what am I confident in? What do I know that I provide? What are people bragging about me? When I get my referrals, what do they all say? And then what are some skill sets that I need to develop?
Hmm.
Because I don't know, I would love to hear from both of you. Don't you feel that they get conflated? That if somebody has a skill set that they're developing, they immediately take that to be a crisis of confidence, as opposed to it's a skill set, or this is a
Yeah.
particularly tough time and I don't have the bandwidth I had 3 months ago.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that when you're a business owner or when you're, mentoring other people, you feel like you have to have all the answers. And then when you don't, you think then everything just starts to crumble and fall apart, right?
Absolutely. No, it's a great point. I think the most intelligent thing you can say is, "Gee, I'm not sure about that. Let me think about it," or, "Hey, what's your thoughts on it?" Because
Mhm.
that's when we start having really rich dialogue. Not that it's sage from the stage or the guru syndrome, which we know how that turns out, but just that it's a dialogue between you and your team also. And I think it takes the onus off you and having your team level up and say, I don't know the answer. Let's all find out together.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, you're not going to do that in certain audiences. You're going to say, let me circle back to you. But
Right.
I think transparency builds trust.
Mhm. It's
Yeah,
okay not to know.
absolutely.
You said earlier something you mentioned fight or flight, I think, and I spent a lot of my career and as you know, in that place. And now I'm not so much in that place and I'm really struggling with feelings of like, why am I not there? Why am I not
Mm,
fighting right now? Like, is everything okay? What am I missing? Like, I'm very hyper vigilant. Um, and so
yeah,
I think sometimes we're confusing resilience with endurance, maybe. I
absolutely.
don't know. So we've been working on this a lot together. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about like, you don't always have to be hyper vigilant in your business. Like, how do we get out of that mindset?
Yeah, I I agree. I feel like that kind of energy or spirit behind your work is going to fry you. So I to me there are many different states, but to me there's an endorphin state and
Mm,
there's an adrenaline state. And when you're in that fight flight, it's kind of counterintuitive because you get addicted to your own adrenaline.
mm,
Right? So it is literally a titration. It is not just a mental process. There is a very deep physiological underpinning that you are literally addicted to your body's own caffeine. I mean, that's really what it is. And so to really see that and to know that there is going to be a weaning off period
mm,
physiologically as well as emotionally and mentally. And I would say the distinction between resiliency and endurance is to me, endurance is what you go through and resiliency is what you grow through. So when you are in resilience, you are building bandwidth, capacity, you've had obstacles, there's mindfulness, there's how do I solve this problem? Let me meet with my cohort. Let me figure it out. Let me fall on my face or other parts and come back. When you're in endurance, it's really adrenalized, pedal to the metal. I just got to get through this. And that's usually the language founders use, right? I just got to get through this.
Yes.
And that's
I'll be able to relax when
when,
XYZ, and that never comes.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I went through that in my kind of mid-career, probably from when I started the business, probably adrenaline up until, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago.
mm,
Melissa, you could probably put your finger on when this happened, and then I got rashed because I was like, I'm on adrenaline for 20 whatever, 17 years, and then suddenly I decided, like, I don't wanna do that anymore, and I had a year, I guess it was burnout, like, I just decided I'm not
right.
doing that, and it
So,
really is, like you said, weaning off of having to be on for so long, and I really crashed for a full year, and now I feel like, okay, I'm coming out the other side of that
so great.
with, like, being able to like, that hindsight and looking at it and
Right.
saying, "Yeah, that's what was happening."
Yes. And you also had a huge transformation. You went
Uh,
from the burnout, then I know you're very public on LinkedIn, then you gave up alcohol,
yep,
and
yep,
then you upped your workout, and then you're being a bookworm at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night
yep.
versus so break down and break through are often very close. If you didn't have that burnout with mindfulness, right, you wouldn't have been able to step back and say, this doesn't work and move more into an endorphin state. So I think it's just really important to own what came out of that burnout, right? You shifted some very profound habits in your life.
So
And
much better now.
it's so much better. There is something, because I think language and different distinctions are helpful. There is something I know, Laura, you and I have talked about. There is something called cognitive dissonance.
Mhm.
It's a phase when you're changing from one state to another, one way of how you're showing up in the world. And cognitive dissonance, cognitive mentally dissonance, disconnect. So you are going to feel disoriented. It's going to feel off and wrong. But what it is it's a positive change and a transformation that's happening. So not only is it physiologically jarring because you're not getting those, little adrenaline hits, but it's also mentally because
Mhm.
you're going to go back to the default mode of I'm being lazy. It's like, no, you're just actually being centered and prioritizing and not being a drama junkie.
If you're a designer, then you know that High Point is the epicenter for all things interior design. All your favorite furniture vendors are there, your favorite designers, manufacturers, tastemakers, trendsetters. Market happens every April and October, and we hope you'll register and attend. We're there each market, and we're always finding something new. We know you will too. Check out highpointmarket.org for more information. I went through that myself. I mean, I think we all have these periods of what we call burnout and just this crashing out of like, I can't sustain what I'm doing the way that I'm doing it any
Hmm.
longer. And I think that for me, I just had to connect with, okay, why am I conflating busyness with being productive? And I think for me,
Mm,
it was just because for so much of my life, achievement was value. When I was doing something that was valued, when I was doing something I was good. And it took me a long time to get into just resting and doing nothing for my I mean, I am doing something for myself with that rest, but not answering my phone, not answering other people, like not having to be on or to perform for somebody else.
absolutely.
I feel like that's very much a female, I don't know, maybe I'm making that up, but I feel like we
Nope.
are programmed to not be busy, but constantly be caring for ourselves, but for other
And
people
taking care of
all
other
the
people.
time.
Absolutely. And I think it's become part of our identity, in general, but it's like your badge of honor.
Mm.
It's like, "Oh, I haven't slept in 27 years, I have 4 hours of sleep. I get back on 5." Like, "Oh, yay, you won," And it's people don't even say, "I've just been very busy." They say, "How are you?" "Super busy." So now it's become
Mhm.
our identity. Like, we don't even say it. It's like our name. "How are you?" "Oh, busy."
Yeah.
And so I think it's very interesting to look at that becomes the cultural paradigm and that much more for women. There
Right.
is definitely, I mean, let's be real. There's totally a double standard. And somehow if you're busy, you know, you're in the grind, you know, and I think it's just really undermines all of us instead of,
Yeah.
and
I
I think it's my
yeah.
language. What was
Well,
that?
I used to be that person. I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm back to back." And then I realized how boring that made me sound. Was that like this is like, "Oh yeah, I'm just so
Yeah.
busy. I'm being controlled by my schedule." Like, or I think that people will praise me for being busy. But then I realized when I heard it from other people, I just thought, "Okay, well, you need to get control of your life." That's
Yeah.
so I realized it. I said, "Okay, well, that's got to start with me, obviously."
Yeah, right. Like, why does your calendar look like that in the first place? Like, what are we even doing? I think that you said like I have value because I'm so busy. Like that, or I was accomplishing things, and that's where my value lies. And I definitely struggle with that. And we've talked about that quite a bit. Not gonna like try to psychoanalyze myself right now because we're looking forward. But you also said earlier, Lois, you said the words beautifully honest. So you talk about that quite a bit, like being beautifully honest as a leadership practice. So not it's not a personality trait, it's a practice, right? So can you talk us through a moment when honesty forced a harder a cleaner decision, but a harder decision, and what the cost of that decision was in the short term? And I know that's a big question, so tackle it
Yeah.
as you can.
It's It's a great question, and I love what you're saying. It's not a personality trait, it's a leadership practice. Here's what I see about, and I don't believe communication is a soft skill. I believe it's a strategic business tool. I think if you look at any businesses, any revenue goals they either hit or miss has communication at the very base. It could be a brand messaging.
Mhm.
It could be managing expectations with the team. So I think communication is the most powerful business tool a company has. And I really feel, and now I think communication is even the worst it's ever been, right? With all these. So I say that Beautifully Honest they're great dance partners. It's honesty and kindness, that they don't step on each other's toes and they don't have two left feet.
Mm,
And here's what I see, just to kind of give you a framework that I see over and over. There's either the emotional Ferrari version of communicating, where it's 0 to 165 feelings in 1 second, where somebody says and does something they later regret, or it's like the avoider syndrome. Well, maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away. And within that avoider is the, "Oh, I don't wanna hurt the person's feelings," like masking as compassion. "Oh, they've been going through a hard time." Instead of just saying, "Hey, I really hear you've been going through a hard time. How can we adjust your goals?" Or, "What support do you need? What can you be accountable for?"
I feel like, "Hey, you've really been going through a hard time, but I'm about to lay down some stuff that you don't wanna hear, and I think you suck at doing X, Y, and Z."
Okay, so that's a hybrid. I
I
love
would
that.
never say that, but yeah, I mean, I do both those things. I can
Me too.
flip and be like say something I regret because I'm, like, emotional, or I can avoid.
Exactly.
Ugh,
Exactly.
I'm a
So
pro.
it's very nuanced. I can give you a really quick story if that's about
Yeah, great.
and so I was hired to do a 1 year curated lunch and learn program with very robust small team, everything from stress management to mindfulness to, oh my goodness, emotional intelligence, the whole, bucket. And you know about scope creep, right? When
Mm,
you're with a client and they're like, "Oh, well, throw in this, throw in this." Well, this was like scope unrecognizable. Like all of a sudden, the CEO was throwing in clearly like change management, structural reorg for me to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're gaslighting your people. And you know that you really want that contract, right? That you can
yeah.
smell the metaphoric ink drying on the paper on the contract. And this is where our bodies come in. My stomach felt like it was having a heart attack. My stomach was like, "No, no." And I really wanted this contract. And it was a fascinating group of people. And so I just said, "Oh, I have a quick appointment. Can I call you back in 15 minutes?" I realized I had an appointment with myself to breathe. So I called her back
I
and
like
said,
that, an appointment with myself.
yes,
"Excuse me, I'm gonna have a quick
I have an
appointment with
appointment.
myself."
Exactly. With myself under my breath. And I just called her back and I said, "Hey, I'm really curious. How aligned do you feel like we are?" And she said, "Oh, I think we're doing great. We're on the same page. We're good to go." And then I let that duct tape, that silence, that pregnant pause. She said, "Well, how do you feel?" And I said, "Yeah, great question. I have some concerns."
Think it's
And
gone off the deep end.
yeah, and I said, "The things that you're suggesting, a scream, a change management, structural reorg, people are going to feel blindsided and lied to
Mm,
and confused. Your investment won't pay off, and I'm going to be the fall guy, gal, they, whatever, and nobody's going to win." And this was a very stoic,
that's
prickly friend.
harsh.
Yeah, was that harsh
I
or
mean, to hear, yes, I would be like, "Oh, damn, she's right," and I didn't even know it myself,
yeah. Oh, I guess it was harsh. It just felt like nobody's gonna win. Yeah,
right?
okay.
That's
It's
great.
beautiful honesty has some harshness to it, I guess. Um, and pregnant pause, she burst into tears,
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
whoa.
and ugly crying, not just I mean, ugly. And this is a person who's
Ay, ay, ay.
incredibly stoic and then prickly, a bad combination. And I just said, "Just breathe. It's okay. They don't call it a good cry for nothing. Obviously, something needs to be expressed here." And she said, "I'm so frustrated with the team. Like, they're not moving forward. I want to try anything." And very long story short, or longer, we had three different alternatives of different directions to go into. We decided to move forward with the program. Made other suggestions. It was really successful. And at the end of the year, I said, "What was the most important thing of this last year?" She said, "You are willing to have that conversation with me." And she said, "What I really saw is that I either avoid situations or I just ream them."
Mm,
And we built some trust, and I was able to have, she didn't call them that, but beautifully honest conversations. So now short-term loss could have been like, she would be like, "Who the whatever are you?" Rip, rip. And I would have had to pay that price. But the long term cost would have been much worse, that people would have felt hijacked for a year.
Totally. Melissa, I feel like I wanna know what you think about that. Like I said, my immediate reaction was like, "Ooh, that's harsh." What do you think about that?
oh, no, that's fine. But
I know. I knew it.
I love a good direct response. I feel like a lot of times, like especially in our industry, with such an image focused industry, and everybody has to protect their reputation because it's their name on the door. But I think sometimes we can be nice without being honest. And then what that can lead to, I think eventually is resentment because then you're extending these kinds of expectations, but they're unsaid. Like you're unwilling to be honest. So it's like when you're talking to a friend, are you going to just let them be delusional and feel,
Depends
and be
on the
like, of
friend.
course it's, the guy is the problem. It's not you. Or are you going to, and what they say is like, are you going to be a good friend and say, hey, I think you need to take a step back and look at yourself. I think that can still extend to a business conversation. I mean, Lois, you talked about it in the beginning about how important it is to just be transparent. I think transparency and honesty they can be one and the same sometimes.
Hmm.
It's interesting. Now, but no, Laura, I'm going to say something. You could slap my wrist. That's fine. But you just stumbled. Thank you for what you said, Melissa. I think you're spot on. And I think it's really interesting, your response. And you're a Southern girl. Am I correct in that assumption? Or you come from do
Me?
you come, yeah, for some
Yeah,
reason.
Texas.
Yeah. So
Oh, maybe
that's
no,
that's
because
different.
Melissa's
Maybe that's it.
Midwestern.
I'm from the Midwest, so it's just direct.
Yeah, but it's really interesting you should bring that up, right? I have a friend who says, "Oh my God, the Northeast people, especially New Yorkers, you are so blunt." And I'm like, "Are we blunt or are we direct?" And she's like, that's a good question." And she said, "In the South, we have to kind of nicey nice things." And I know I'm being very global, but I
Yeah,
think it's so interesting to look at our audience as well as our acculturation. So I think
for
your response was
sure.
really fascinating to me.
I mean, I said harsh, and I don't I think direct is right,
Okay.
and I can absolutely have a direct conversation.
Right.
I can. And I
Of
do
course you did.
all the time. I
Yeah.
had to learn to do that. Maybe that is being
Yeah.
raised in the South. And I had to get comfortable doing that too as a business owner and as a parent. I mean, with my kids too. I
Sure.
don't want to gaslight my children. Like they
Those
need to hear it. Um, I don't know, but I do think you can still be kind and be direct. And obviously, you're not saying don't
absolutely.
be kind because
Oh,
in your story, she needed to hear that.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it benefited everyone, you and her. I mean, I'm assuming that it all shook out in the end.
It did. It worked out really
Okay.
well. But I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's so important to hear what our filters are.
Yeah.
So I was
Hmm.
just partially razzing you. But no, I think it's interesting to look at what's the acculturation, what part, what like you said, the Midwest, right? Square meal, square deal. Northeast New York. Hey, we're at 57th Street, like we all have different styles.
So, okay, here's an interesting question too. And I think maybe you're going to say, hey, it depends on where you are. But for founders who want a steadier business, not a loud business, not a bigger business, they're not looking to be huge. In your opinion, what you've seen in working with people like this woman you just described or me, what shifts first if you want a steadier business? Like you don't want to feel stretched thin. You don't want to feel like you're overwhelmed. What should they shift first?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I had a financial consultant once said, our priorities change, but our core values never do.
Hmm.
And I think it's really important to go back and say, what are our core values? What do I really stand for and what's very important? Because when we get clear, and I know sometimes it's hard to have the luxury of that reflection, but I think it's really important to go slow to go fast.
Well, you
To
just have
say
an appointment with yourself. What do you mean?
exactly. But to
I have a core
really
value appointment.
yeah, to really get clear, what are 2 or 3 core values, and how do I want my company to further those values? And
Yeah.
if you don't want big enterprise, big, "Oh, I have an empire," but you say, I want a quality of life. I want quality time with my kids. I want to do really good work in a cadence that stimulates me, but doesn't overwhelm me. I
Mhm.
think that is the really important thing is to start with the core values. And then out of that, we could look at like what beliefs are counterproductive, like identity work. Are you still attached to being one-stop shopping for all your clients? And as a result, you are not leveling up your team.
Mm.
You're not bringing in, I know you folks have done a lot of podcasts or you're talking around a lot about hiring. You
Mhm.
know, who do I need to be hiring, even if it's just 10 hours a week to just outsource things that aren't a good use. But I think that's the first thing, core values and what's really important. And have it be just a body, mind, spirit, not just in our head,
Yep.
which I think is such an important thing. As women, we have this incredible facility of our body, right? If we can listen to it. Do we get excited about that venture or is it something we dread because we're
Mm.
in a burnout stage? So
Yeah. Be easy to talk yourself out of your own intuition sometimes when you're just like so uncertain
totally.
about how to move forward.
Yeah, and I had to get comfortable thinking about just like I don't know, I feel like I'm always in my head.
Hmm.
When I feel like a decision is a brain exercise. Like I am deciding with my brain. And I've worked with Lois actually quite a bit on listening to that. I mean, I have that gut instinct and I will make a decision on gut, but I also get really up in my head about it. But Lois
Hmm.
and I have talked a lot about like, and at first I felt really silly about this. Where are you feeling that in your body? And I'm like, what do you mean? In my brain, like it's a cerebral exercise. What are we even talking about right now? Then I'm like, oh no, I feel that anxiety in my throat. Like that is wrong for me.
Hmm.
And maybe it probably at closer inspection, it did go against my core values. And
Right.
it's like taking notice of where you're feeling something too. And for me to even say that, guys, I have come a long freaking way because I am I'm, like, so in my head all the time. I don't Melissa, are you able to make decisions like that? Are you like, "I'm listening to my
Well,
body"?
I mean, I went to therapy weekly for several months, and our EMDR therapy, and our exercises were
Oh,
always
wow.
like, "Where are you feeling that in your body?" Because at first, I feel like I just feel stuck or I feel constrained, and I hate that feeling. It makes me feel claustrophobic. And like, there's just like, okay, but where are you feeling that? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your throat? And that's just where a lot of my panic just
Mhm.
resides. But usually at work, I think I'm a very, I can just keep it all in my head, and there is no emotion. That there is no emotional attachment to it. But that's so ignorant. That's not
I
true.
call
I mean,
bullshit on that, yeah.
yeah, like there's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
you're bringing your whole body, which includes your mind and, your emotions
Absolutely.
into work. But I always struggled with that because I felt like I didn't want to bring any emotionality in. And then I can't separate things out. And I used to be such a people pleaser that I was just like, I'm going to do like sacrifice everything just to
Mm.
focus on work, and that took a lot to get out of it. I think too, just, like, getting, like, squarely into middle age, you're just like, "All right, I have maybe fewer years ahead of me than I have behind me. I'm not like, I need to make changes."
Mhm. And
Hmm,
I think it's really profound what you said, and I think there is a difference. It's about intuition, and, they talk a lot about flow state, and,
Mhm.
we know when we're in flow state and when we're swimming upstream. You feel it in your body,
hmm.
and Laura has called the woo-woo police on me a lot. She's like, "Oh, wow, but
I will
then you always
partic
seem to get value out of it. It's so funny. It makes me
I
laugh.
do. I will participate in a visualization exercise where I'm sitting here with my eyes closed and I'm like, "What am I even doing right now?" But then I come out on the other side and I'm like, "Damn, that was insightful, sneaky insightful. Okay." Huh. I still feel, like, cringy about it, but I'll do it.
That's the learning curve, right? That part, the critic is like, "Oh, no, this isn't this way it's supposed to look like."
Yeah.
"Thank you for sharing. I'm still gonna do the exercise.
I
Okay,
look
judge."
ridiculous. Why am I doing this? No one's even
Yes,
seeing
that's
me.
it.
I don't know who I look ridiculous to, but whatever.
Exactly, exactly.
Oh my god, I've got some major issues.
Gotta give yourself some grace.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm gonna go have a meeting with myself over here about my issues. I like that. I'm using that. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot I had an appointment. Let me
Yes,
sit down and think about this because I will make a knee-jerk reaction because I have to decide."
that's it.
Like Melissa, you said like being busy is like a badge of honor, but I feel like my decision making is a badge of honor for me. Like I am
Mm,
that person that will take that responsibility and I will make a
mm,
decision and I will take, whatever consequences come with that. Like to the
mm.
point where I'm like deciding without thinking.
Mm.
Got to stop doing that.
That's interesting. What
Oh, she's gonna
identity?
sidewind
I
me.
mean, uh-oh.
What?
No, but if we could talk about it next session, but no, but it'd be interesting to look at what is not only the belief, but what identity. Like, to be a strong leader, I have to make decisions fast and
Mm,
intentional and stand by them. I'm
yeah.
just making up something versus as a leader, I really make thoughtful decisions, and I give myself the time and the space to make them in an intentional way that has positive result. Like, it'd be interesting to look at what identity you're holding
Same.
around that.
Yeah, I have no idea because when you're saying that, I'm getting really uncomfortable. And in my mind, I'm like, there is a ticking clock. Like you're saying, you've got to sit with that and chill. And I've written about this, like you said on LinkedIn. You've got to sit with this decision and think about it. I'm like, there is a clock ticking. What are you even talking about? Sit with it.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah, but
impossible.
but Laura, I'm gonna say something about what I know to be true for you. You are a highly strategic person, right? That is you.
Sometimes I'm just throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks,
Listen,
Lois.
but there's a strategy to slowing down. It's not like, "Oh, I'm gonna just
Yeah.
write in my journal and law of attraction and hopefully it will manifest." But there's a strategy, right?
I actually do shockingly believe in that too.
There's some truth to that. There is definitely some
I'm
balance.
such a contradiction. I'm so
Yeah,
complex.
but there you go. But it's, what key stakeholders do I need to talk to? Or what information might I still need? But I think it's important to notice your squirreliness around it. That's, to me, really interesting.
Squirreliness.
Squirrely. Now a squirrel is a verb. I make my own language.
We use squirrel as a verb too, but we use it as like distraction. Like, oh,
Oh,
I'm squirreling. I'm like a
I'm
squirrel.
squirreling. Oh, I love that.
That comes from Megan Allered, who you also know.
I know.
Um,
Swirling. I love it.
we squirrel on that topic. Okay, what am I missing, Melissa? Before I know we're
I
kind of
guess
going
just
off on a tangent.
I
I've
guess
got
just
some stuff to work.
one big last question, like, what from everything that you've seen, Lois, and maybe it's something that you see with Laura, like, what's one thing that we get, that, like, really just we get caught up in, and what's, like, one practice or something that we can do to overcome that? I mean, I know, like, a lot of us as business owners, there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of imposter syndrome, as you had mentioned before, and I think that those things are big barriers to moving forward and then achieving the kind of success that, these women want to achieve and our listeners want to achieve. Like, what's one thing that they can take away that like they can implement right now that'll really help with that?
Great question. One of my Loisisms, which is Laura knows them well, lessons, opportunities, insights, and solutions. I'm going to say something that sounds so duh, but common sense uncommonly practiced is move from criticism to curiosity. So when you are critical of yourself, the situation, or another person, to go, okay, criticism contracts, curiosity expands. Okay, I'm in a contracted state. I'm in criticism. Who's wrong? Who's to blame? That's not the same as ownership and accountability. What can I learn from this? What lesson? And sometimes it doesn't come right away, but what's my opportunity here? And sometimes that's where you have to do the journaling and all that
Yeah.
appointment with yourself. But what can I learn from this? What skill set can I expand into? And if I was to really come from curiosity, what might shift around my approach moving forward?
Huh. Good. Yeah, that's helpful.
So I've got to get introspective here. If I'm feeling critical,
Yeah,
I got to get curious. All right.
yeah. What can I learn right now? What could be a positive outcome from this? What skill set?
It's great. I love it. Okay. And so we're all going to take that away and start practicing curiosity.
Okay.
And if our listeners want to find you, where are you? Where can they go?
Uh, www.loisbarth.com. That's my website. I can also give out my email, lois@loisbarth.com. Say hi, tell me what's going on.
Perfect.
And yeah,
Thanks, Lois. This is really great. I appreciate
yes.
you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on designdash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.